ass with your dumb ass.
All in the knot.
Cool. Again, from the illustrious Beats, Bars, and Bourbon presents podcasts, events, everything. You know how we do. So we got my guys B-Ball, we got my guy Steezo, and then look who we got in the house.
Look who the fuck we got.
We got my guy John Gakuru.
Once again.
Kenya's finest. London's own.
London's boy.
And LA's best.
John, what's up, man?
In DC tonight.
Glad to have you in the district, brother.
Thanks, man. It's always a pleasure.
Always. So John is fresh off of
Mexico.
scuba diving in Mexico.
Yes, sir. Where were you in Mexico, by the way, John?
We had a couple of nights in Mexico City and then down to Riviera Maya for some scuba diving, somewhere between Cancun and Tulum.
So time out.
Awesome.
So you just shoot from that motherfucker, come to DC, get a haircut in the whiskey washback, and just set up right here with us.
Just come out. And just
Nothing you said sounds weird.
At all. Especially when you're a Scorpio. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
What we do.
We on this Scorpio kick.
We do. The season. The season.
What? Where are we right now? We're at Whiskey Washback.
Whiskey Washback.
Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir.
Our second time around, but Whiskey Washback's third.
This is my third. I went here 3 years ago. It was the inaugural season of it. The Skylar here at the Hamilton Hotel. Shout out to my boy Walter Easterbrook, and
Shout
Elena.
out to Walter, man.
They've been nothing but awesome. And I love it, man. So the first year I loved it. Wanted to come back with my guys. We came back last year. We loved it. Great experience. So it was only right we come back for a third year and every year after, for sure.
100%. So, John, how are you enjoying yourself so far at Whiskey Washback?
This is great, man. I've been to 1,000 events like this around the world, so it's really great to come to my first whiskey event on the East Coast. I mean, I'm not famously a consumer of whiskey, but believe it or not,
I wanted the realness to come up.
Right.
That's just what I was thinking.
But they have what he does enjoy, which is tequila, mezcal specifically.
hey, listen,
They got a
I
little bit of something for everybody at Whiskey Washback, right?
I love the craft and the industry. So whether I call for a particular spirit over a bar or not, does not diminish my love and enjoyment and respect of everyone in this business working hard to create beautiful liquids for us to enjoy.
No doubt. And speaking of your love for the business, right?
Yes.
We got to chat a little bit earlier, because the funny thing is when we met you in New Orleans, and since that time, things have been going 1,000 miles per hour with us. And I know me personally, I never understood what it was that you do for a living.
Yes, I like that.
You know what I mean? So can you please tell them a little bit of what you told me about what you do, and your how you consult and everything else.
Totally. So when we first met, it was in July at Tales of the Cocktail, and I had my board of directors hat on at Tales of the Cocktail. It's my job, my pleasure, my privilege, my honor to represent Tales in the best possible way I can. Now that we are in November, the week after my birthday, I can talk more freely about what I do, and
Absolutely.
because I'm here representing myself, supporting you all in what you do with Beats, Bars, and Bourbon out here on the East Coast. So I have a company called Coruscant. It's a small agency that covers everything to do with drinks, brands, drink brands, and hospitality. Everything from physical venue design and bar layout through to consulting, beverage programming, new product development, brand design, sales, import, export.
Wow.
So you're the motherfucking guy.
Dude, if you have a brand and you want to break into the US market, we're an agency that you might call upon to help you do that. If you're a brand in the US market looking to step change your sales growth or your footprint or whatever it might be, we're an agency you might look at to do that. If you're a brand in the US, Canada, or Mexico looking to connect with bartenders on a deeper human level and really drive your brand into the hearts and minds of bartenders who are ultimately your best sales reps ever, if they believe, their customers will believe too.
Hey, John.
Right.
If you ever wanted,
Thank you, by the way, for sharing
if you ever wanted to know why I personally love you, this is why I love you. You know,
Is the haircut I got today?
it wasn't the haircut. It's because you always mention stuff like hospitality. You know, Hospitality. You know what? That means you are a humanitarian. That means you are like down to earth. You know, I know the Bourbon Boys fuck with you because you're down to earth and you're here with us.
And he's very much a James Bond figure.
I wanted to say that.
He's James Bond. We got him straight from London.
Straight from London.
Straight from London. And
Out of a lab.
You don't know exactly what he does. Until today, we didn't know exactly what he does.
He's not actually Tommy.
He drives cars 1,000 miles per hour. Yeah, we don't know that for a fact, but I'm thinking he's thinking
It's
probably
pretty
good.
accurate.
Pretty accurate. Yeah. So, let me ask you this, man, because I'm curious. So, we were looking at a bar. How does one go into a bar and just dissect the bar and then also build a bar?
So for me, it's over the years as I've gotten more experience. Nobody wants to hear what's wrong with their venue. So it's not for me to walk into a venue and start picking it apart. It's just something that anybody who's been a bartender, chef, waiter, waitress over the years, whenever you receive hospitality or you enter a venue, we all do it, every single one of us. We rip it apart in our minds. Yeah. Like, if this was mine, I would do this, or I would
analyze.
You analyze it, you critique it, and what I have chosen to do, as I've done more of that and visited more venues around the world, is pick up on the great, what I really love and enjoy, make a mental note, sometimes a physical note, like physically make some notes, and I do the same with things I don't enjoy, especially things that are really subtle or, for me, I really try and celebrate the good rather than pick apart the bad, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I'll give you a really, really simple example of things that I notice that I really appreciate. And it's got really nothing to do with physically eating or drinking. Soho House, good example, global brand. They have the same global Wi-Fi password. So whenever you walk into a Soho House, your phone, your laptop automatically logs on, whichever house you go to anywhere in the world. Tiny detail, but somebody is taking the time to make that a thing globally. And so those little details I really, really appreciate. And then in a hospitality setting, taking something as benign as a Wi-Fi password and inserting it in a hospitality context, that is ultimate hospitality. What is the guest experience? Let me walk through my property, my business, as if I'm a guest. What are the things that would make my life easier, even if I don't even recognize or acknowledge that they're happening or that somebody's thought about it? Bathrooms are another classic example. I can see in so many venues where the front of house is immaculate and, tons of money was spent, and you go to the bathroom and you can see as you walk to the bathroom where the money ran out.
Right.
The paint changes, the walk.
Wow.
Like simple little things like that. So the conversation we had at the bar upstairs in DC was, the distance between the bartender and the guest was so far that I feel distant from the person who should be delivering this interpersonal, intimate, human hospitality connection moment. And they're so far away from me, they can't do that. So design, ergonomics, consumer flow, guest flow, as people start to drink, humans behave differently and they move around a building differently. And like all of these little considerations ladder up to this kind of unseen demonstration of hospitality excellence.
No doubt. And then you also talked about, when we were upstairs, you talked about the back end of things as well, and how the behind the scenes, people being treated fairly was important.
Absolutely.
Sharing of tips, for instance, sharing of jobs on the back end.
Yeah.
And that was pretty fascinating to me, like, as somebody who's not on that side of it, to think like, okay, this person can be the bar back one day and be the bartender the next day.
I think the simplest question to ask is, what does hospitality mean to you?
True.
Whatever the answer is, you then, every single touch point through that hospitality journey ought to be thoughtful and considered and intentional. That means how the staff are trained, treated, remunerated, their uniforms, the number of hours they're expected to work, through to the design of the bar, the bathrooms,
the
soap,
small things that we kind of, as a consumer, don't pay attention to.
Right.
But talking to a guy like you make us say now, be more cognizant and conscious of, oh damn, okay, now I see this now.
Right, but the question was, what do I do? That's what I do. I pay attention to all of the tiny things,
sir.
so that you all give a venue a 4.7 rating on Google.
The bar whisperer.
I mean, that sounds awful, but yes.
But you know,
No, but like,
I did not mean to put you in that class.
But fellas, we often use the phrase level setting, right? And there's to me, level setting in an environment like that is super important. So you talk about all of those various things that needs to go on within a bar for it to be a successful to receive a 4.7 rating or what have you. How important is it that the management team and the staff that are like out in the front, forefront working with the consumers, that they meet frequently to kind of just level set and discuss, hey, what's gone on over the last few weeks or the last week? What do we need to be thinking of going into this particular season, so forth and so on? Like, and that frequency and having those kind of meetings, like, how important is that in a bar?
well, I can tell you by the way you phrase that question that you know the answer to that question before asking it. The way you phrase that is, answer the question in and of itself. The more frequently a team meets and shares experience. In my bar years ago in London, we would meet once a week and we would have a kind of, we call it like a plus minus exercise. What was your 1 plus and what was your 1 minus? The minus isn't necessarily negative. It's like what could be done better. And the plus was like, maybe if I share this thing that worked well for me that night with the team, it might work well for somebody else.
Right.
So yeah, you answer the question without in your question.
Right.
When it comes to working together and gelling as a team, more is more. But I think also with regards to hospitality, we're here at Whiskey Washback and downstairs in the Skylar room, however you pronounce it.
Skylar, you got it. First time, Brandon, believe that.
There's a...
Hey, look, you got a fresh cut.
I did get a fresh cut. There's a bunch of glass bottles, inanimate objects that can't speak. Everybody down there working on behalf of the brands they're representing today are doing their best to imbibe each of those inanimate glass bottles with a liquid inside, imbibe each of those bottles with a story, with a personality, with a human characteristic or trait that we as guests, or consumers might find relatable. We might relate really well to Uncle Nearest. We might relate really well to District Made or whichever the brand is. For one or more of the storylines that exist within those brands. So again, going back to the question, what do I do? As well as all the venue work, we also do a lot of work on brands and building that brand narrative, that brand story, and working with bartenders in those venues to deliver great hospitality. Great hospitality from a bartender to a guest, in my humble experience, is about delivering choice and excellence and delivering a sense of trust, engendering a sense of trust with the guest. When the guest trusts the bartender can take that guest on a journey.
Yes.
That journey
I like
will be
that.
into the cocktails and or liquor brands that bartender loves.
Love
So
it.
that's a lot of what we do as well. So we're split between glass bottles and brands and the development and growth of those, sales, marketing, import, export, etc., and new product development, and the venues in which those brands call home.
Love it.
So it all goes back to the customer. Because I always feel like
Guest.
even
Guest.
the guest.
Shit.
Right,
Guest.
yes, I like that. Because I feel like the same thing with events. Like, you can have 4 walls in a room full of people, but that does not make that an event. What makes it an event is the experience that the guests get out of whatever you provide.
Yeah.
And when I'm creating, when I'm asked to deliver events, I think I might have mentioned this in New Orleans, I always start with how do you want, clients, how do you want your guests to leave your event? So we work with the emotional connection that those guests will have when they exit the event.
That's deep,
At the
man.
end of the day, night, whatever, how do you want your guests to think and feel about that experience? And then we reverse engineer the experience right through to the initial invitation. How do we invite them? What does that look like through to how do they arrive at the event? What is that, aha moments on arrival? What are the drinks? What are the food? What is the blah, 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 blah.
Right. Talk to us briefly, because I know this is a passion of yours about diversity in the industry.
Bring him these to you.
Diversity and inclusion are words that are used a lot today. I'm going to go with the fact that they're used with the best of intentions. What they mean to me, it's easy to say we are a diverse and inclusive organization, but what does that look and feel like to the team that is a part of that team? So diversity tends to mean today, we employ people from every race, color, and creed, and inclusion, however anybody self-identifies, and making sure we create safe spaces in which all of these communities and cultures can coexist and feel like the family, and that's really important to do.
So do you feel like, John, the places that lack that diversity, do you think at some point in time that they fail quickly because they don't push diversity?
That's a good question with probably a complicated answer. I think the issue with diversity and inclusion is it's diverse. It's a huge thing. So I think so long as everybody in hospitality is conscious of what of their business,
right,
is consciously and intentionally making a safe space for anyone of any background, of any belief system, however they self-identify, so long as business owners and leaders are creating those spaces in which all of those folks feel comfortable, happy, seen, respected, heard, and safe, then we've come a long way.
Whether patron or worker.
And guest,
Yes.
I started out at TGI Fridays, and
I love this
had
story, man.
It's a different story, but I did start out there. And I had a manager who said that if we ever had a problem with the guest, the manager would side with the staff member immediately, without question.
Right.
Even if the staff member was wrong.
Right.
After the issue had been resolved in the moment, so we'll comp the meal, or you need to leave, or whatever the solution was, there would then be a postmortem, and the staff member may be reprimanded after the incident,
if in private.
Private, yeah.
Not in front of the
So, you know what? That's akin to how, we always talk about sports. And that's akin to how I think a coach should deal with issues that happen on the field.
Yeah.
Like in the eyes, like to the media, you're going to take this stance that, no, we're all together. But then you might, behind closed doors, reprimand that guy behind closed doors. But we in the front-facing piece, we're going to stand together.
Yeah, we're one
Super
team.
important.
We're one team, and we'll deal with our issues in private.
That's right.
And like any family, a team of staff is exactly like a family. And families are weird and wonderful and stressful and loving, and
man. Don't we know?
confrontational, and
That's how I feel about whiskey.
Yeah, there's always. I was about to say, there's always a drunk uncle. In our case, it's Brandon. But look, I think the marriage.
That's his new name, Drunk Up.
It's a marriage. It's a marriage.
Yeah, look, I think diversity and inclusion does mean a lot to me, and it's difficult to answer a question like that, in an environment like this, because every situation and scenario is different. Everybody involved in any particular situation or scenario will have a different perspective. So there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to that question. The question you asked me is, why does it mean so much to me? It means so much to me because I tick almost every diversity box there is on any form any of you have ever had to fill out.
Right.
And that means that I feel privileged to be in a position to be able to hopefully positively influence.
But let me ask you, not to cut you off.
With my journey and what I've learned.
Does it also mean, with you saying that you check pretty much every box from a diversity standpoint, does it also mean that you've had what you may feel is more experiences being on the other side of the fence when you felt left out, whether it be intentional or indirect or unintentional, to where you're also very passionate about the diversity and inclusivity?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I am forced in most situations to tick the box other. So, I had the privilege of listening to Anastasia Miller collect her award at Tales this year in July, and she spoke exactly on this. She's also mixed race as I am. I was born in Kenya to a Kenyan father and a British mother. And, she's Japanese and British, and she's had to tick the box other all her life too. So for me, listening to her talk in July was quite eye-opening, because I'd never kind of processed that for myself in that way. Ticking other for me actually made me feel special, different, unique, interesting. I didn't conform. I didn't fit into any of society's boxes, and I didn't feel that as a negative. I felt it more like a superpower.
Yeah.
And that's just, maybe being an only child, or how I was brought up, or whatever, nature versus nurture, all of those things. Yeah, well, that, or just, strength of character, whatever it might be.
Right.
So I've been very fortunate. There have not been many moments in my life where I've had to really deal with a lack of diversity or inclusion, mainly because by the time it had become an issue that needed addressing, I'd already built up the self-confidence and experience to be able to either talk my way out of whatever it was, or talk other people into it, whatever it might be.
Wow.
Or talk people through it.
Yeah.
So now I see myself in a position where I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by some wonderfully, unique and beautiful folks in our industry that are teaching me even more today.
It's always the best.
And I've got
always the best.
I've got some young guys and girls from every diversity and inclusion box that hasn't even been written yet.
Right.
Some folks that there isn't a box yet for them, and it's just a joy to be able to support and nurture and hopefully be a positive influence. And it's
It's all good.
I almost did it's probably the camera.
That was the part I remember I was the loudest.
That was,
That was.
I didn't want to do the same thing over again. Thank you, bro.
My man.
Right there with the solutions.
I love
Love be a solution mate.
Yeah.
100%.
Thank you, man. Thank John. It's
Hey.
always a pleasure, brother, being able to sit down with you for a few minutes, man. And
Thank you guys
always.
for continuing to create safe spaces that are heaps of fun.
Hospitality.
Like we just, since we met in July, all we've done is laugh, even though we're trying to achieve something that has that has a much bigger, higher purpose without being too lofty.
Right.
As long as we do it with heart and humor.
Absolutely, man.
what about class?
Well, we out, Stan. We out.
I know about that. I was about to say. We gonna keep that word out of me right now. Got that.
We can try.
Heart and humor.
Thank you, brother.
Man, happy birthday, bro.
Happy birthday to you too, brother.
Thank you, man. As always, man. One love, bro. One
guys,
love.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Listen, another episode sitting down with the amazing John Gakuru and my brothers and I, man, Beats Bars and Bourbon. Y'all stay tuned. This episode gonna be crazy, man. Check it out.